Hey everybody, this is Eric Bratcher, Editor-in-Chief of GamesRadar US, and you're watching the 20 most important games of the decade.
In the 2 weeks leading up to the game's European release, which I think was in March 2002, I was sad enough, and this will make me sound like a complete raving mentalist, but every night before I went to bed I watched the TGS 2001 trailer, Tokyo Game Show, and the E3 2001 trailer. You know, it was the last thing I'd do before I go to bed.
Metal Gear Solid 2, it was one of the first games that really validated the PlayStation 2 and the promise that it held. You know, I remember being at E3 when they debuted the trailer to Metal Gear Solid 2, and it was one of those things where it was running on a big screen, and I think they ran it every half hour or every 20 minutes or something. But every time it ran, a big crowd of people would stop and just stare at it and watch it, and traffic would get all backed up around it. You couldn't walk around that area. But it happened to me too. Anytime that video was on, didn't matter if I'd seen it 10 times that day already, I had to stop and look at it.
Freeze! Sit freeze! Vaya por detrás.
Resident Evil 4 deserves to be on this list purely because I think it represents the most successful reinvention of a series in the last 10 years. Certainly the most important thing about Resident Evil 4, the most important individual component, was the behind-the-shoulder cam, which had never really been done before. Couple that with the context-sensitive aiming. It's arguably spawned its own subgenre, which the likes of Gears of War and Uncharted and Dead Space now sit in.
The legacy of Resident Evil 4 is its over-the-shoulder aiming, which we all know now. Any third-person action game you play now has this thing. You're walking a third-person game, you can see most of your character. You hold a button, they bring the gun up like this, the camera always ends up over here, right behind your shoulder, and you're kind of looking out like this. That RE4 made that a staple, and that went into Dead Space, Gears of War, GTA 4, Mass Effect, name it.
Guitar Hero was the first time that a game was built around its peripheral, specifically, I think. Just holding a little plastic guitar. It's like air guitar in that, you know, you just have to do the motions, but then you've actually got some buttons to press as well, and you really start to feel like you're playing guitar.
We had a lot of discussion about the Guitar Hero series, whether Guitar Hero was the most important entry or whether it was Frequency and Amplitude, which were very similar and were from the same developer but came out earlier. And we settled on Guitar Hero because the Guitar Hero is like the ultimate wish fulfillment game. You know, everybody at some point has thought about being on stage and it's a crowd of people screaming at them, and you know, you hit that note and you do the horns and everybody flips out, right? But it's hard. That's a very hard life. It's hard to learn to play guitar. But then you get Guitar Hero, and it's that experience in a bottle, well, in a box.
incredible writing, a complete lack of any sort of disassociating cutscenes, an unbelievable character animation. It took believability in a game world to a whole new level. Basically, if you're not planning your wedding with Alex by the end of the game, there's something very wrong with you.
Gordon! I had a feeling I'd find you here. I've got Dr. Kleiner in a safe spot. Now we can join up with Barney.
The release of Half-Life 2 was almost like a new console in and of itself. It created the mod community that popped up from all over the place. Like, you know, when a Nintendo console comes out, you know you're going to expect Mario and Zelda and Metroid. And when a new Half-Life comes out, you knew you were going to expect a new Team Fortress, a new Counter-Strike. And all the stuff that went off that Source engine, Left 4 Dead, Portal, like, there was just, Half-Life 2 was just, Half-Life 2 is like the console itself. It's like, that's why the release was anticipated so much.
Weapons free. Bridge secure. Stairs clear. Last call.
I think the main thing with Call of Duty Modern Warfare is that it really brought war games out of the trenches up until Infinity Ward gave us Modern Warfare. Most of the time we've been running around throwing stick grenades at Nazis, which is fine, but it was nice to do something that seemed a bit more contemporary. I'd also remember Modern Warfare for being a game that my girlfriend disliked intensely, and I'd probably say that goes for a lot of wives and girlfriends out there, woken up by the sound of gunfire and the announcement that UAV is online. I'm sure they didn't enjoy that particularly.
Pick up an RPG and fire on that hive.
Every mission is just full throttle, constantly being surprised, constantly being amazed by the scope of it and the, you know, just the massive action sequences, and then they play with, you know, the gameplay. They play with sort of the mechanics and the customs of first-person shooters.